Have you ever felt confident while speaking English, only to realize later that you made a small grammar mistake? These tiny errors often go unnoticed, but they can change the meaning of a sentence entirely. Today, we are focusing on two major trouble areas: prepositions and conjunctions. These words may seem small, but they play a huge role in making your English sound fluent and natural. By the end of this episode, you will not only recognize these common mistakes but also understand how to correct them effortlessly. So, let's get started. Segment 1: Common Preposition Mistakes. Let's begin with prepositions, those little words that indicate direction, time, place, and more. Many English learners tend to overuse or misuse them. Here's the first mistake. Mistake 1: discuss about instead of discuss. You might have heard someone say, "Let's discuss about the project." This is incorrect because the verb discuss already means to talk about something. The word about is unnecessary. The correct sentence is, "Let's discuss the project." A simple way to remember this is to think of discuss as a formal version of talk about. If the word about is already included in the meaning, you do not need to use it separately. Moving on to the next mistake. Mistake 2: enter in instead of enter. Many people say, "She entered in the room." But the correct sentence is, "She entered the room." The reason is simple. The word enter already means to go inside, so there is no need for the preposition in. A good way to remember this is to think about other verbs that express movement. Just like you would not say return back but simply return, you do not need in after enter. Here's another common one. Mistake 3: married with instead of married to. A lot of English learners say, "She is married with a doctor." The correct phrase is, "She is married to a doctor." In English, we always use married to when talking about a spouse. Saying married with could be confusing and might sound like you got married alongside someone else. And now, let's talk about a mistake that can completely change the meaning of a sentence. Mistake 4: complain versus complain about. Many people say, "She complained the food." But the correct way to say this is, "She complained about the food." Complain always needs about before the object. You cannot simply complain something, you have to complain about something. A simple way to remember this is to think of similar words like talk about or worry about. If you naturally add about to those, you should do the same with complain. Segment 2: Common Conjunction Mistakes. Now, let's move on to conjunctions, words that connect sentences and ideas. These words seem simple, but they are often misused. Mistake 5: although but instead of although. You might hear sentences like, "Although he was tired, but he kept working." This is incorrect because although already introduces contrast, so adding but is unnecessary. The correct sentence is, "Although he was tired, he kept working." A quick tip to fix this mistake: if you ever catch yourself saying although but, just remove but. It works every time. Mistake 6: unless versus until. These two words often confuse learners because they both refer to conditions, but they are not interchangeable. If someone says, "I won't go unless you call me at 5 p.m., that is incorrect. The correct sentence is, "I won't go until you call me at 5 p.m. Here is how you can remember the difference. Unless is used for conditions, meaning if not. Example, "I won't go unless it stops raining." Until refers to time, meaning up to a point. Example, "I'll wait here until 5 p.m. Mistake 7: despite of instead of despite. Another common mistake is saying, Despite of the rain, we played football. The correct sentence is, despite the rain, we played football. Despite already means in spite of, so adding of is unnecessary. A simple trick to remember this is that despite is always followed directly by a noun. No of is needed. Final thoughts and bonus tip. Now that we have covered these mistakes, here is a bonus tip to instantly improve your spoken English. Whenever you are unsure about prepositions or conjunctions, try simplifying the sentence. A shorter, clearer sentence is usually more grammatically correct. Instead of memorizing complex rules, focus on how native speakers structure their sentences naturally. The more you listen, the more these patterns will become second nature to you. That brings us to the end of today's episode. If you found this helpful, make sure to practice these corrections in your daily conversations. The best way to improve is by applying what you have learned. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.